I'm here with Taty. He just arrived from Bonaire, and we're trimming his AC1 racing sail. He's just opened up 6.2. We're going to tune the cams and the buttons to the millimeter, because when you get the sails are ready to go, so you can just rig and go on the water. But you can still do some fine tuning to the sails to get them even more spot on to what the needs are. And we actually do this tuning even ourselves. We are testing the sails, but you know, after a while you use them, like after a couple of months, you realize that the sails can improve in some ways, and therefore you discover more about the sail. And you know, we try to update our riders as well according to what we find out while we're testing. And since Taty's here and he's got his 6.2, we're going to do it on his sail right now. So one of the things is, as I said before, it's cams and it's buttons, you know, because and of course we're going to check also the downhaul of the sail. And so we go through all the steps, and you can follow us while we do it. We actually made an article on our website, so if you're checking, if you want to see what we're doing now, it's actually already on the website as well. So for those who have the sails and want to check that, they can also go on our website.
Okay.
So now the first step is we're gonna, because we know that the cameras need a bit more pressure, especially the higher cam that we have on our sail. So we're going to place in the top cam a 5mm spacer. This 5mm spacer is giving more pressure to the mast, and therefore it gives more pressure to the mast, and this means on the water that you're going to get more acceleration when the gust hits it in the sail.
It's going to be trouble. It's going to be a long time. Look, I have so much like spacers here, and I need to use the 5mm on the topper camber.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to do it is quite simple. You just have to go in with your hand. You just have to pull out the cam. You just have to pull out the cam from the button, and it's super simple. As you see, it's just this way. You put in the 5mm spacer. We give normally like different sizes, but for now the 5mm spacer is good in this. And just sliding back the cam on the button, and you put it back in like this. And this is done.
The skinny mast.
Skinny mast.
Skinny mast is 6.2.
RDM.
Yeah, RDM.
Yeah, we're using on sail sizes below from 6.2 down. We're using an RDM mast, and we're using a 4-meter mast, which is actually quite short for a 6.2 because we're using 42 cm extension. And this is because a shorter mast in a strong wind sail like a 6.2, 5.6 is actually softer. Being softer is absorbing the chop, the gust, and just makes it more comfortable. Having a softer IMCS, we could use a 430 with much less extension, but the mast will be stiff and it will be like less forgiving when you get a gust or when you hit the chop. So that's why we're using it like a short mast with a long extension. We chose to use the RDM because from a 4-meter down, an RDM mast becomes already stable enough, so to give stability. And one good thing is that if you're also wave sailing, you can still use a 4-meter for wave sailing and for this type of slalom sail. 430 up, we're actually using the SDM mast. As I feel, and the guys are also feeling, that the sail becomes more stable with an SDM. So one thing I would like to show is that sometimes, you know, people are having difficulties in putting in the cams without putting a boom on. What's important is that you're actually not pushing on the cam itself. You're not only pushing down the sail to put in the cam, but you're actually pushing down and backwards. This gives more space to just kick in the cam, in this case with my knee. So you're pushing not down but also backwards to put it in, and that makes it easy, as you just seen on the last one. That's it.
Is there a certain amount of downhaul?
Well, yes, I like, for example, to downhaul the sails with my hand, or using a tool just to downhaul, because I can feel the flex of the mast. And after testing a lot and rigging a lot of sails, I actually pulled downhaul without actually looking so much at the sail at first, but just by feeling when I get to that tension that I like on the sail. It doesn't matter which mast or which sail, I always try to feel that tension. And when I get to that tension, I always add that extra cm, which gives the mast to have a bit more reflex.
Okay, top tip I heard, one hand here.
To put it, to put in the in the mast. Yeah, just with the cans. Yeah, just one hand. It's like 14 centimeters in the end. 14 centimeters is right. You're right. What I was talking before was more like the full downhaul. But as you say, yes, to put in the cans, one hand, 14 centimeters is the right. Right.
Okay. Depends on the hand. If you have small hands, then yes.
Tidy band. So now what we do is like we put on the boom and we're going to put some pressure on the top of the sail to see how the leech is opening, simulating a little bit like how the wind, when the wind enters the sail.
And that's not tensioned yet.
The buttons are not yet tuned. Depends how good he did it himself.
I have a feeling. How long are the lines?
33, 34, depends on the wind conditions and then how rough the water is. So the more wind, the more rough the water is, I go longer. It's lighter, I get it like shorter.
Is that the longest, yeah?
34 I use the longest and then 30 for the smallest. So that's gonna have more time to adjust the body and stuff. But it all depends on the wind conditions. Skin mass always go lighter.
Alex, you hold the boom for us. What we're doing is actually we're checking the leech line. So by Taty is pushing down the two top buttons, we are seeing how the line falls in. And we have a pattern which is actually having these three buttons in line, and then the last two start going back up because we want the top button to close again because we don't want the wind to go out from the top. So it's like closing the gap, like you would close the base of the sail on the board. We want that to happen also on the top of the sail. So that's why the top button is actually, if you see it, it's going up again there.
Yeah.
And this line has to be a straight line. Now we have this button which stays a little bit higher, which is the fourth button from the top, because we don't have a fourth cam in our sails. We only have 3 cams. To compensate that, we need this button to stay a little bit higher so that when the wind comes in, because it doesn't have a button, it actually goes in line. But not having a fourth cam actually allows the sail to be much softer and much easier. So that's why we don't have it, but then we have to compensate it another way. So now, when I check the sail, again, you know, Taty has done a good job. The sail is like it should be. I don't see any difference. I'm just checking that there's not too much tension on the buttons. Like in this case, actually he had too much tension. It's not good to have tension on the buttons over the boom, not too much. Because what happens if you put too much tension, like in this case, then you would get a curve. When the wind comes over and you have a profile at the back, yeah, you have too much tension, the wind is not able to go out, and therefore it will push the sail to open up and it will actually force your arms to open, and you will be uncomfortable because then you don't want to sail like this, you want to sail straight, but then if the sail is closing over you too much, the wind that cannot go out, then you have to open and you keep doing this. So it's very important not to have tensions on the buttons over the boom. It's nice, they just have to follow the profile of the sail. So now I'm releasing the button, I start almost to see some wrinkles. You see, I prefer that I see almost some wrinkles than just to have too much, because that makes sure that the button can also open S-shape and have the wind release earlier in case it gets overpowered.
Okay. So we did a good job.
Yes.
So how would you check the right amount of downhaul for maybe somebody who doesn't have the feel, let's say?
Well, there are 2 ways. Most of the sails, not only ours, of course, there's always like a sign on the sails. So, for example, here we have the setting. The setting is here, so you need to, it's between, in this case, the 2nd and 3rd button. You have the loose area of the sail, and when you downhaul, this area just goes further forward. So the more downhaul you have, the more the loose area will go forward, and you actually end up to the setting. So once the sail has the downhaul where the setting is, that's how we advise it. if you go over this line, normally the sail becomes lighter in the hands, but it could also become a bit more unstable. If you do less, you will have a little bit more power, but it can feel heavier as well. So this is like where we like it, but then always someone can choose to have a little bit more downhaul, to have a bit more like lighter feeling, or a little bit less, or a little bit more power. But this is where we advise. And as I said before, you know, after you can see this is one of the things. Another thing is that you feel actually the tension of the mast. I mean, like Taty, you know, he has the feeling he can pull downhaul and feel how much the mast is bending and the tension the mast has, and he knows that when he gets to that point is where he likes the tension. The tension that he likes to feel in his hands. Yeah. And another thing you can also see from the lav sleeve. If you see that the lav sleeve is kind of soft, you can also hear from the sound. You can also hear it from the sound that it's like it doesn't have like it's not like soft that it's like doing this way, but just bending this way and not also this way. Then you know that it's also nice extension. There are no wrinkles on it, so it's, the tension is great.
Okay.
That's it.
I just want to say sorry about the sound, totally my fault. It was recording through the camera and not through the microphone. So I hope it didn't detract too much from the information given. But I thought I'd put the video on anyway, because I think there was some really, you know, interesting thoughts there from Andrea Cucchi from obviously Point 7. If that was helpful, if you liked that video, give us a thumbs up. Like, let us know in the comments if you want to see more of that type of video or any specific videos you want to see from certain brands or certain riders. It's useful information for us, and then I can see whether I can deliver it. If you haven't subscribed to Windsurfing TV, subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.